It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with certified financial planners Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being here, friends. My name is Mike Bernard. I am your host. I'm also one of the certified financial planners on the program. And with me in the KFG studios, my business partners and fellow CFPs, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory.
Many people in their 50s worry they'll never retire or that it won't be the retirement they've dreamed of because they still have debt. Whether it's a mortgage, car loans, credit cards, or even college loans, we're helping navigate getting out of debt while still making the final push towards retirement.
This is everyone. It just feels like everyone's dealing with this, and it's going to be even more common moving forward because asset prices and debt levels and so on. But here's the thing. I know the feeling because we've worked with folks through this. It's okay. It's okay. There's hope. There's a plan for you. We're going to help you navigate, go through a few different scenarios here to help you take your next wise step in your financial life. If you have a question for the program, we are here for you. You can call us or text us, 574-222-2000. That's 574-222-2000. Online, wisemoneyshow.com is where you can find us. Leave questions there. Engage with us that way as well. And then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search The Wise Money Show. Earlier this year, there was an analysis done by Lending Tree where they released some studies, some information that said 97% of retirement-aged adults have non-mortgage debt. And it's almost like they wanted to tell everyone, it's okay, see, come borrow some money from us. Right. like consider the source. No, but so 97%, that's higher than what I expected. Yeah. And the amount of debt on average, they said was $11,349. Guys, let's just start there before we get into, well, how do you plan if you're in your 50s or on the eve of retirement and you've got debt? What's your way to still be able to retire with confidence? What's your approach? I just want to get into this common 97% of people in retirement have non-mortgage debt. What do you think?
Well, and if they're saying non-mortgage debt, there may be more who also have mortgage debt in addition to, right? This is debt that would be on cars or credit cards. Maybe you've put kids through college and you took some parent loans or something and you're still making payments on it. I've never heard this statistic before, so this is interesting, but I wish we had the data on what is the average interest rate there as well, because, debt, not only it represents a monthly obligation because you have to be making payments, so it's draining your cash flow, but sometimes when it's high interest debt, it could represent the very best investment that you could make as well. When you put money towards debt and you pay it down, you're getting a rate of return on that money that may be even better than what you could get leaving it in the bank or in investment accounts, that sort of thing.
Josh, there's a flip side to that. I didn't know where you were going with that. I thought you were saying, if you're late in retirement, go borrow as much as you can and see if you can.
Paying off debt that can create some pretty powerful progress in your financial life if you get focused on it. So.
Kevin, you surprised by this number and this data? 97%?
No, I think especially when you get into your 50s, and at least for me, I'm a good ways into my 50s, but my early 50s are very different than my later 50s, with family situation and everything. Mm-hmm. And so I do think, as I was thinking about the show and preparing for the show, I was thinking, all right, you have to make some decisions because there's a certain group of people that are not everyone, that they have enough money that they are going to borrow against their assets until they die, use that money and spend it, and when they die, their assets will get a step up in basis and everything will get paid off. But that's people with just say 30 million or north.
Yep. Yeah, ultra high net worth.
Mm-hmm. But most folks, the millionaire next door, the mass affluent, if you will, they probably need to get rid of their debt and position themselves from a balance sheet perspective. As I was thinking about this, I'm like, okay, what would I do, or how would I approach this? I would get an opinion, or at least a second opinion, and I would go to a certified financial planner and say, what should I do? Because there are lots of folks right now, and we're talking about debt. So they think immediately, well, debt, what do I have? I have a mortgage. I have a couple $100,000 on my mortgage at 3%.
Yeah.
So should I ever really pay that off?
I was going to ask okay, is this a problem? Does this even represent a problem? I don't think 97% says there's a problem. I don't think that the numbers that high suggest that there is a problem. I don't think that, well, it's $11,000. I don't think that represents a problem either. That's a typical car loan. And is it normal to have a car loan in retirement? I think so. Yeah, it can be normal. I also think of this generation. If you're in your 50s or if you're in retirement, that's what this statistic is referring to, you're sandwich generation. Mm-hmm. We've got prolonged adolescence. It's harder for kids to land on their own feet financially, and yet also dealing with aging parents. I had a client reach out this week asking about, how do I get a guardianship for my mother? Because I've got a power of attorney, but she needs more assistance than this. And so I think those are common instances where you can find yourself in debt, even if the debt's not a problem.
I wish there were other studies that went through this, though, that asked people, well, how do they feel about the debt? Because, $11,000, maybe financially it's not a problem, but what if it is stressing you out? Mm-hmm. What if, for one spouse, it's a major problem and the other is just fine, sleeping tight at night, no big deal, and it can create some conflict. And so, everyone has a different opinion or a different value tied to debt. For some, it's a tool to be used. Others, it's like, this must mean I've done something wrong. Like there's just a wide range of perspectives on this.
Yeah.
But wherever you're at, you need to have a goal on your debt. Like you need to have an intentional approach, because you said it well, Kevin. This is part of your balance sheet. It's part of your financial health. Mm-hmm. And where do you want to be by the time you get to retirement? That's the key. And that's what you should be talking about with your certified financial planner as you personalize your approach to debt.
And we serve lots of folks that within a year of retiring come to us and say, hey, I need help. To a person, they all say, man, I wish I'd been working with you years ago. So if you are years before retirement, start working with a financial planner now, because the planning that you can do, and I like the idea of goals, because a lot of times it's just, why do I have debt? I don't know, why not? And so there's not like this, there's not a great
what we do,
right?
Right.
Yeah. There's not a great reason to or not, and a lot of people don't spend a lot of time thinking deeply about these things. Yeah. And so, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I say, okay, well, go work with someone who does think deeply about these. One of the funnest things that we do in serving almost as a financial coach for folks is setting up the targets and then watch people achieve them, and they never achieve them on time. When people have financial goals, they always achieve them early. I mean, I can't remember, and people think, well, what if it's a stretch goal? The stretch goals get achieved early. There's a phenomenon. Someday I'll write a book about it.
Yeah. I think debt also is a great illustration of how your financial life is more connected than what you think. The Wise Money Show and the approach that we take at Korhorn Financial Group, a comprehensive financial planning approach, it's about having and identifying the 6 areas of your financial life that make up everyone's financial life and how they're actually interrelated. They're connected. They're not just these separate and distinct pieces that really don't touch each other that you just need to attend to. Culture and society sets it up that way. Oh, you just get your banking relationship and your budget over there and just leave it there. And talk to a gecko and get some insurance and you're all fine. Or an emu or whatever, right? And then your taxes, TurboTax, and you're fine. Auto enroll in your your 401k and you're all set and LegalZoom and you just get a will and you're done. No, these are connected pieces. Having debt, that's present financial position, should be on your balance sheet. You should be tracking it there. But having debt there, it impacts your retirement. It impacts how much protection you need, the insurance coverages that you need. It impacts your ability to accomplish some tax goals as well. So we're going to approach it from a planning perspective. We've got that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show. What you're watching right now is our weekly 1-hour talk show that airs right here on this channel, 10 a.m. Eastern time every Saturday morning, and also on podcast at the same time, and on a couple local radio stations at the same time as well in Northern Indiana, Southern Michigan. That's where our headquarters is. And but if you are looking for more concentrated content, more content, we've got that right here on this channel as well. Next Wise Step videos, as well as shorts that air all throughout the work week right here. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you're aware every time we drop new content. If you like the content, leave questions and comments below as well. We appreciate it. All right, guys, bonus questions. What is this is similar to the money rule one last time, which you guys really liked. What's a common financial tip that sounds good, but it doesn't really work for a lot of people?
Just cut out coffee for a week and all of a sudden your budget's going to be balanced. Like some of these trivial things that if you just give up this one thing, then it will transform your financial life. And I personally think that budgeting is a lot more hands-on than just picking one item and saying magically that's going to solve my cash flow crunch or whatever.
Kevin and I locked eyes. We were about to jump you there because
we specifically and intentionally picked coffee.
But those little keystone habits, they actually do matter. But I would agree with your last point that getting more involved in your budget.
The keystone habit would be budgeting, right?
Yes. That
opens up all kinds of other good things in your financial life.
But I'll say this, like saying, okay, I'm going to go spend $5 on a coffee every day. If you're struggling with your cash flow and you say, no, I'm going to make that coffee at home, that can then cast a vote that you are a disciplined person and you are a financially responsible person. And that alone could then say, you know what? Then I'm going to increase what I'm saving in my 401k. So anyway, I would say Kevin, we talked about this one recently. The common financial tip sounds good, doesn't actually work for most people. Buy term, invest the difference.
Right.
Met a whole bunch of people where term is the right type of insurance. I haven't ever met someone that said, well, because I bought term instead of this other thing, let's increase what I'm saving by $2,000. Mm-hmm. It just naturally works out, maybe. Or maybe not. They just bought term and never invested the difference.
Right. Well, and if you've ever worked with a minister who opted out of Social Security and then didn't take that 15.3% and invest it, because really what would you need to do? You need to invest it for your retirement. You need to have life insurance, and you need to have a disability policy. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do those three things, then you've missed the boat completely. And it's easy to not do those three things. It's easy to buy term and not invest the difference. Yeah. I think, Josh, you're talking about what are these things. I think that, hey, cut out coffee for a month or, whatever these things might be. These are behavior modification. I think one of the big fallacies is that behavior modification works. It typically just doesn't work. It's not what you need. Yes, your behavior needs to be modified, but it's your thinking. Right. And this is where, Eric Wood he sent me a text and said, hey, I left a gift for you in your office. And that could be loaded. I'm like, well, I wonder what Eric may have left me. And I was thinking it'd be something really great. But instead, it was a book by Morgan Housel and his new book about spending money.
Oh, he's got a new book.
Yeah. Okay. And the thing is, you
buy this book and then don't spend another dime. Is that the advice?
No, but this is so. For me, at least for me, I've had to keep working on my thinking. We even talked about how our thinking about our investment approach has evolved, and why does it evolve? Because you expose yourself to new and different facts, and you say, "All right, I have my certain set of facts. How do those line up with the new ones that I'm looking at?" And now I've got a history of data. What does this data say to what I originally was thinking?
Mm-hmm. All right, we got to cut it there.
That could be a show.
It could. Here we go. Let's get into let's inject some hope, and then get into scenarios. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Best idea I heard all day, Mike.
It's early. All right, here we go. If you have debt in your 50s, and we also know that's the retirement red zone, others have called it, but that's your final push to be getting ready to retire. Well, what do you focus on? Saving up for retirement? Paying down the debt? Do you try and do both? What are some options? We're helping with that right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Stay up to date on all Wise Money content. Find us online, wisemoneyshow.com, and then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search the Wise Money Show. This is a common plight, if you will, or common financial situation. Whether it means there's a problem, you got to address it, or no, that's just everything's working the way it's supposed to, but you've got debt in your 50s. How do you navigate being able to retire with confidence? A lot of people do think, I can't retire because I've got this debt. Here's the good news. There's hope. And not that there's hope, oh, you can dig yourself out of this hole. There's perspective hope. There's strategy hope. There is, I've done this 1,000 times with other clients, and I know the way through the woods here to get you where you need to be. There's that kind of hope. There's work with your certified financial planner. Just because you've got some debt, whether one of you, if you're married, if one of you says, it's not a problem, there's actually more room on the credit card, we could, and the other is staying up at night, worried about it. No, there's hope. Work with your certified financial planner. Begin that planning process. They are objective. They're a fiduciary. They will look and say, yep, there's an issue here, and here are the ways that we can correct it. Or, no, you guys are just fine, and here I'm going to show you why and how. There's hope.
Mm-hmm. You know, when we talk about retirement planning and just getting ready for that phase of life, you might be thinking of that as, well, that's just some date or some age that I circle on a calendar out there in the future. I like to think of it as maybe a whole series of different goals that help you reach that phase and that available opportunity, I guess, to walk away from a paycheck. For some people, this might not be all that different than, hey, we want to start a family. So what are the goals that we need to achieve in order to be ready for that? Well, we want to have some student loan paid off. Do we want to get into a house that we can raise a family in? Maybe you have some other like emergency fund goals that you just kind of stack up and say, all right, these are mile markers along the way towards that big life event of having a family. In retirement, maybe for you, being debt-free is one of those goals. And if you're in your 50s and starting to turn your attention away from raising kids and launching them from the nest and everything to, you refer to it as the retirement red zone, that last stage, the last bit of progress that you're going to make before you get to the end zone here, maybe paying off some debt is one way to get there. We often spend time thinking about, well, how do I get the right assets accumulated, the right size portfolio, that kind of thing. Debt might be one of the mile markers that you approach on your way to retirement.
All right, so let's get into that. The planning approach, the perspective to have in a few different types of situations. And the first one is you're saving up aggressively for retirement. And let's say you're on track reasonably to land the plane when you wanted to retire. You think you'll be able to have the lifestyle that you want, but you do have some debt as well. It's not a problem. It's not a crisis, but you're juggling both. It'd be great to have it paid off before you retire, but it's also maybe not in the way. What's the approach? What approach do you take? It starts with, I'll share, you guys can chime in as well here, but it starts with building out a realistic retirement plan, a 5-factor retirement plan, taking a look and saying, well, what age do you want to be done and what's your life expectancy? What are your current spending levels, and including the debt in that spending level, okay, as well as healthcare and vacations and taxes. What are your retirement income sources? How are you going to optimize Social Security? Do you have a pension? Will you have other income sources? How much do you have saved up? And then how much are you currently saving up? How much are you on an ongoing basis saving up? And then what sort of investment risk are you comfortable taking? And in starting with base assumptions on all of those so you have clarity on where you stand with your goal. And then you can tweak to say, well, what if we get the debt paid off early and that debt is no longer an expense in retirement? What does that do to that confidence rate? Or, and contrast that with, what if we increase how much you're saving to retirement? Now, what's that confidence rate? And you could start with just playing these statistics and saying, well, which one has a better ROI? Which one gives a better investment picture? I did this recently for some folks, and by recent, I mean a decade ago. But they were in this exact classic situation. Had a car loan and then had a mortgage that was set to stretch about 5 years into retirement. And they were on track for retirement. We looked and their retirement confidence was in the high 80s, so on track. They didn't feel on track. They wanted to get the debt paid off before retirement. And so instead of saying, well, what do? Do you save less for retirement, put more on the debt? Do you save more for retirement, put less on the debt? The challenge was, I think you can do both. Mm-hmm. One of the spouses was maxing out their retirement plan at work and also maxing out, and then we were maxing out both Roths. Can you do that and then also accomplish paying the debt off by the time you retire? And we built a plan, basically just a goal. Hey, do you think you could do this? And to your point earlier, Kevin, they said, I think we can. We're up for that challenge. I think we can do it. And they still did vacations. They still had fun. And counter to what you said, they didn't pay it off early, but they paid the debt off in June. They retired July. They did
Perfect.
it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Isn't that one of the best parts of being a certified financial planner, though?
Yes.
Because you're listening to their story, you're listening to their priorities. It was the client who said, I feel like we're not on track because we want this debt to be gone before we get to retirement. And then you just issue the challenge, lay out, what if? Could you do this? And it's almost like sometimes in life we just need an outside source of encouragement or
Yes.
challenge. We need a coach
Yep.
along the way to say, you know what, we're in the gym. You can do more push-ups than what I just saw you do. I know you're capable of it. And I know the results that will come, you will enjoy, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I don't know, that's the fun part of getting to enter into someone's planning and challenge them in that way. To me, the type of strategy that you probably used, I'm assuming you built some sort of a debt snowball.
Yep.
Where you start attacking the smallest debt first, because it allows you to get the wins, to get the encouragement, and have a celebration along the way that we just knocked a debt off. But the financial power that brings then is you just eliminated a payment. And now you have even more cash flow that you can start applying to that larger debt, which in this case was the mortgage. And so you guys just started paying extra on the mortgage, I'm assuming, along the way, and got the 5 years knocked off. What a great story. And this happens all the time, right? When you are crystal clear on what it is that you want to achieve, but maybe you don't know how to do it, that is the story problem for financial planning.
Yeah. And as I was preparing for the show today, you can't think about debt without thinking of a debt snowball. And as I was doing some research, I think of the basic bro debt snowball, but there are all different types of debt snowballs. It sounds like the one you're talking about, Mike, would be the emotional or the behavioral snowball. And that snowball is when you pay off debt that bothers you the most. Mm. And so think about a loan tied to a bad memory or a lender you dislike. So you borrow money from your uncle, and every time you see him, he kind of holds it over you or rubs it in your face. So you're like, okay, That's it.
Is that a new shirt? Yeah.
I saw you ordered the extra large fries at McDonald's there.
Yeah.
So you say, no, I got to get free of that. But there are some great different approaches. The classic, which is you start with the smallest debt first and pay that off. You could do the debt avalanche, where you start with the highest interest rate. You could do a hybrid of those. You could do the cash flow snowball, where you pay off the one that requires the most cash flow.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pay this one off, get the most cash flow, and then do it. You could do a risk-based snowball, where you say, hey, this debt has certain personal guarantees. It has a variable interest rate that's going to change in 3 years. There's a cosigner, something like this. So we deal with that, or you could just do the reverse snowball, which is I'm going to go with the biggest debt first.
Yeah.
And I'll work on that and get to the smallest one.
I love it. And so it almost suggests there isn't just one way. It's your way.
Yes.
What's your way?
Have it your way.
Work with your certified financial planner. They can look at all 6 areas of your financial life and help you figure out which approach is best. All right, we've got more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. That's good, Kevin. That's really good.
Did you know there are that many kinds of snowballs?
I didn't. What about... never mind. Bad joke. Okay. What's a sign that someone's truly financially independent and you can't say their investment portfolio? You have no idea what's in their investment portfolio. What's a sign?
They are calm when it's chaotic in the economy, in the market, or whatever. Maybe their industry is laying people off and they're not freaking out. To me, the impact that financial independence or financial freedom has, financial peace is another phrase, it's in your own countenance and your own emotions, that sort of thing. How you can view the world because you're not worried about finances.
Yeah, I think signs can be deceptive.
Yeah. Totally.
Because I could have that same peace just because I have no clue what my financial state is. Mm-hmm. I could have that same peace because I have faith in my provider.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't worry because I was told not to worry. So there are a lot of different ways that you can get that peace, and I think it's very. The one thing that I've learned is you never know. You
right.
never, or at least you can never tell by looking. And again, if we're talking about Morgan Housel, the difference between rich and wealthy. Rich, I can see it because you're spending it, you're driving it, you're living it, you're wearing it, you're whatever. Wealthy, I can't see it.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea if your portfolio is up 1% this year or 15% this year. I have no idea if your portfolio's big or small. And so it's very interesting, and we have different approaches to how we would even talk about such things.
Yeah. Good comments. All right, third segment. I don't know if there's any more to share on that one, but I will shift into the other one. They're the next sort of iteration of the same thing, and that is, there's no plan. Like we've got it's enough debt. We're going to be in retirement with that.
Uh-huh.
So how do you navigate that? How do you have peace when you know I'm going to have debt in retirement? So my guess is this one might take the longest. If this one takes the whole segment, as long as it's good conversation and helpful. All right, here we go. If you're in your 50s and have debt and are wondering, well, am I going to be able to retire? Work with your certified financial planner, build out that 5-factor retirement plan, and then also see if there's a way to come up with a debt snowball, whatever flavor you like, and come up with a plan to get that debt paid off before retirement. But what if you can't? What if there's no question you're going to have debt in retirement? Is that going to be hanging over your head? Can you still have a confident and successful retirement? You can. We'll show you how. That's what we're talking about right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Corhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Corhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on podcast. Wherever you listen, just search the Wise Money Show. Subscribe to it there. Rate the program there as well. We appreciate it. Talking about having debt in your 50s and still having a successful and confident retirement. Most people, that debt in those later stages feels like, I can't retire, I can't save, I've got to pick one or the other. Do I pay down the debt or do I save up for retirement? You can do both. Find your own plan. Second scenario. The first one is, I've got a manageable level of debt. I'd love to have it paid off before retirement. What do I do? The second is there's no question, I'm going to have debt in retirement. I am. And this is, I think this is more common. I think, Josh, you said that even last show. This is going to be more common. And part of it, I believe, is because of the house.
Yeah.
But for 20 years, we've been saying the downsize doesn't mean a lower price. Mm-hmm. And right now, not only is that like, oh, a little smirk, yeah, that's true. Now it's like, oh my goodness, if you're wanting to find a ranch style home that doesn't need a ton of work to it, you are paying premium prices. Yeah. And therefore, you might have a mortgage that is stretching, like you might take out a 15-year mortgage right when you retire, or a 30-year mortgage to keep that payment low right before you retire. What's the plan? How do you plan for having debt into retirement?
To me, if you're going to have debt, and maybe it is a mortgage because of the different house, or maybe you had to put an addition onto your house for a mother-in-law suite or something along those lines. You're thinking long-term with housing, and therefore you had to or you chose to borrow money to make that happen. If that is going to be long-term debt, obviously we want to make sure that that is affordable debt, that it's at the lowest possible interest rate, and that the payment is manageable. So debt in retirement, to me, becomes mostly an issue of cash flow. How large is the monthly obligation that you're going to need to be meeting each and every single month? And can that fit in your overall lifestyle? Can your retirement nest egg, as well as your sources of income, can they cover it? So to me, if you're going to have debt and this monthly obligation, then your budgeting becomes especially important. Making sure that the rest of your expenses you've got control over, you know where the dollars are going, and that way you don't have this lifestyle creep that begins to happen and you realize before, well into retirement that, oh, you know what, we've been spending more than what we can really sustain long term. You might point to the debt and say, oh, I wish that was gone at that point. But what if there were other things that you could have had even more control over along the way? Because debt is what would be considered a fixed cost, a fixed expense. You really don't have choice. Mm-hmm. If the mortgage is $1,400, it's $1,400. You do have choice on how often you go out to eat or where you go. Right. And that fixed expense is a double-edged sword. On one hand, I would encourage you and I would reassure you that, well, the good news about that $1,400 mortgage payment is it's going to be that amount in year 1 of retirement, and it's still going to be that amount in year 7 and year 12 in retirement. It's not going up. Everything else in your life is going to get more expensive as you get deeper into retirement, just simply because inflation erodes your spending power. And that has to be something that you are accounting for in your retirement plan. If you realize right now in your 50s that you're still going to have debt in your 70s, part of the conversation with your certified financial planner is, are we setting ourselves up to have a growing portfolio that can help keep up with inflation for all the other expenses as well?
Yeah, I think in terms of the person that has, because Josh, you make a great point. Do I have good debt? And good debt is it's a payment that I can afford and an interest rate that is reasonable market rate or below. So then I'm thinking, all right, well, if I've got a mortgage, do I pay that off? Because if if resources were limited and you say, do I pay off my mortgage or do I save into my retirement plan? I think you look at what your tax bracket is. Because if your tax bracket right now, if you're in one of the higher tax brackets, the top tax bracket's 37. Say you're in the 37% tax bracket. If you put the money in pre-tax, you're not paying 37% on that money. You get into retirement and you pull it out, and this is an extreme example, but you're in the 12%. Well, that arbitrage, that difference between what I would have paid while I was working and what I am now paying in retirement could be meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a pretty extreme example, but that is possible, that it would make sense to invest in your retirement plan pre-tax to shelter those dollars until you get there, and then when you get there, pull them out.
I would argue, and have argued it before, it's never okay to have an off-the-shelf retirement projection, retirement plan, either an online calculator or logging into your 401k, and right there, at least for us, it's red. Mine is red, or it's yellow, or it's green. You don't have enough retirement income, blah, blah, blah. Well, I know you're just looking at my 401k. You're not looking at everything else. And so anyway, it's never okay to have a convenient, easy, efficient, really limited input retirement projection. Not okay. Your retirement, when you decide to step away from that paycheck, is the biggest financial decision you're likely going to make. You want to make sure you've got the right process, the right approach to ensure that, nope, the signal, what the output is correct, it's accurate. Having debt, if you're in this sort of second scenario where, yep, no question, going to have some debt in retirement, you want to make sure that that is an input in your retirement projection. It can't just be, well, my retirement project, it said I could retire and it's assuming I'm going to spend 75% of my pre-retirement income, so I guess I'm good. No, you need to have this as a line item. There's 5 factors. There's 5 interrelated factors that determine whether you're on track for retirement. The second one is spending. And within spending, you isolate, yep, this is how much we typically need to spend our normal lifestyle, plus debt, plus Medicare or health insurance, plus any kind of vacations or one-time expenses, plus taxes, and plus anything else if it applies to you. But debt needs to be like I'm just looking at it, and I can't show you right now, but in the tools, the calculators that we use for this, it specifically says spending. And then the very next one is liability payments. That needs to be listed out in your retirement plan to confirm you're on track and that it fits.
Exactly. It's part of stress testing your retirement portfolio. And are you ready? Is this game plan going to work? It has to be realistic on the amount of debt that you're going to be funding or supporting in retirement.
Yeah. So that's the approach. It can work. You can do it. We did a show earlier. Like, you don't need to be debt-free in order to have a confident retirement. Does it help? Sure. But does that alone assure that you're on track? No. And does the evidence or having debt in retirement mean that you're not on track? Absolutely not. It's just it has to be baked in to your financial plan. So run those miles.
It's okay to have debt as long as you have the assets and the income.
Yeah.
There are some people that I've run into along the way who have said, if I can just be debt free, then I'll be able to retire. And that sort of implies that they're either going to keep on working some side jobs or they believe that Social Security or pension is enough for them to live off of. And the reality is, yeah, getting to retirement and being debt free is ideal, but it's the asset base that you have as well, which will help you keep up with inflation and help make sure that your resources and your spending power last as long as you do. That's a key component. And that's why you can't know whether or not being debt-free or having debt is going to work outside of a true retirement forecast. This has to be a conversation you have with your certified financial planner.
And they've got to be doing comprehensive financial planning, because they're just helping you with some investments and then, I'll run a quick retirement calculator. If they don't know your debt level, they don't know your net worth, they don't know your spending levels, it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. You won't be able to trust the output. All right, those are 2 common scenarios. What about if debt is an obstacle and you've got to get through it in order to retire? We've got that more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. All right. Let's see if we can find a quick one.
Are we going into the 4 segment?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
And so when you say debt is an obstacle, you're talking about the debt crisis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last one we'll hit. And I don't know if we'll have chance for questions or if that'll take the whole segment. Let me instead.
You need to have those up just in case.
Yeah. And then we've got to hit a short break, so we're not going to have bonus content this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let me get a question ready just in case.
And how would you define debt crisis?
You're not on track for retirement. It won't work. So in the first 2 scenarios, you were able to build a plan, a 5-factor retirement plan that showed it can work. And in this one, nope, it doesn't work. And standing in your way is debt. So, all right, this is not pulling up, but I'm sure it will in a second. So let's get into it. And thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on podcast, on the YouTube channel, and it's on podcast. But lots of other content is on the YouTube channel as well. Short and next wise step videos that air all throughout the work week. So go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it there, and leave questions and comments there as well. We appreciate it. Talking about how to retire with confidence if you still have debt. Specifically, if you're in your 50s and trying to figure out, well, do I save more or do I pay down debt? What do I do? How can I still accomplish that goal of retiring on time and planning? A 5-factor retirement plan. That's the approach to take. I want to dip into the sort of the last scenario, and that is I'm in debt crisis. I'm in my 50s, and we all have financial regrets. But in this scenario, you find yourself getting closer and closer to retirement, knowing that you haven't been able to save much at all because you're just constantly taking 1 step forward, 2 steps back because of this debt. And in the first couple scenarios we talked through, your retirement plan worked and you still had some debt. So could you pay it off before? How do you plan for it in retirement, but your plan worked? In this scenario, your plan doesn't work. You're not going to be able to retire. If you wanted to retire at 65, you're not on track because of the debt that you have. What do you do then?
I think some of these principles are the same whether you're in your 50s or your 30s. Anywhere you find yourself in a financial crisis where debt is starting to pile up or it has arrived and it's staying, like you're just not making the progress that you want. I think you have to get back to some of the most basic analysis, and that is evaluating honestly, do I have an income problem or an expense problem right now? Because the debt may be a symptom of one of those root causes that need to be addressed. And, if you're in your 50s, you're running out of time in order to get that solved so that you can make progress towards your retirement goal. So the sense of urgency might be higher in your 50s, but I would want to raise the sense of urgency for a 30-year-old as well. Yeah. If you are in crisis mode where it is stressing you out and maybe creating conflict where it's not necessary, the budgeting process of evaluating what are my income sources and what are the expenses that are drawing income out of my hands, the debt itself becomes one of those obligations. And so to reverse the course, we have to find some margin or some freed up cash flow somewhere, somehow, in order to start melting this debt. Earlier in the show, Kevin did a fantastic review of all the different ways that you could approach a debt snowball. But they all involve attacking one primary debt at a time so that you can be freeing up cash flow and wiping out this debt. It's the freeing up of the cash flow, though. Getting that started is key. It might mean hey, I'm at a point where I need to find some additional sources of income. I need that side hustle. I need a second job. Maybe I need to sell some assets to free up some cash flow and just get the ball rolling. I've worked with clients. Some of the earliest clients I ever worked with were in their 50s, wanting to retire. A bunch of debt was standing between them and that goal. And they took some amazing action that many of their peers would not have been willing to do. They downsized their house. They had some great things happen for them. They received a small inheritance that they used so well to accelerate their progress. They made some lifestyle changes and freed up cash flow. And they were able to take a debt snowball approach towards getting this stuff eliminated, and then begin the building process of creating a nest egg that they were able to retire off of on time, on the pace of their goal. So this absolutely can be done, but it starts with a catalyst of getting some free, dollars that you can begin to wipe out debt with.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes people look at the current reality, and this is what we do. This is human behavior. We take our current reality and we project it forward. So things are going great. We say, hey, going forward, things are going to be great. If things are going terrible, going forward, things are going to be terrible. People can't imagine how good it could be. And most people are just a few great decisions away from completely changing their situation. Yeah. But there are things that you could wake up in your 50s and say, oh, the business that I had started and had been running for a long time, it completely failed for a certain reason, and I'm now either in immense amounts of debt or I'm bankrupt, or there could be a change in your marital status. And you say, oh, wow, I have debt that I never had before, whether that's paying an ex-spouse or different types of things. So there can, life is full of curveballs that can sneak up on you and surprise you, and other things can happen. So I would encourage you, if, make sure you have help. And here's how you know if you need help. If you can't really look at it. If you can't look at it and you can't face it, then just go get some help.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's time to look at it.
Yeah.
Avoiding it is not going to be, it's not going to help.
Right. And you're like, oh, well, that's easy for you to say, Mike, because, you got rid of all your debt when you were 21 or something like that. But I'm like, no. Don't hear that in any way, shape, or form being judgmental. We don't make value judgments. We try to help people and encourage them to get the help they need. Because if a leader's job is to define reality, you need to define reality. Mm-hmm. And I actually have been surprised when I look at a situation and I'll ask the question, so what do you think we've got going on here? Do you think it's an income or an expense problem? If most folks are so used to their situation, they can't see it any other way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so they say, well, of course it's an income problem. If I just got paid more, I wouldn't have this problem. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that can be the case. Oftentimes that's not the case.
It's important to rule out the expense problem first, because if you believe it's an income issue and you add more income to the situation, if you actually really don't know where the money's going, or you've got some expense lifestyle creep happening, it will keep on creeping right along with that rising income. Right?
And that can be one of the touchiest. I mean, the hardest thing. We have a wonderful career choice as financial planners. One of the most difficult things is facilitating these types of conversations, because as I was talking with the folks that were really struggling, and I said, well, these things that you're paying for your 26-year-old child who's still living with you, what if some of these responsibilities were shifted to this person? And the dad physically almost got up out of his chair, but he lunged forward. Now the good news is I'm in a conference table and there's lots of space between us. But he's like, are you suggesting? Do you expect me to leave my child? And I'm like, no. I'm just wondering, like, could we have a plan? Mm-hmm. Could we say, hey, these are the 14 things that I'm paying for you now, and by the end of the year, I'm only paying for 12 of them, and then we're just going to kind of just keep chipping away and shifting the burden.
Yeah, again, we're talking about if you find yourself in a financial crisis. Right?
Exactly.
Things are not working financially. Like we're just honest about that. When you are able to actually kind of look this monster in the eye mm-hmm. and evaluate, okay, how am I going to beat this foe? And to me, the more willing you are to make the sacrifices, to adjust your goals, can I share a hard truth? You may be in your 50s and have enough debt standing between you and retirement that retirement's going to be delayed. And the sooner that you know that and can get started on the marathon, not the sprint, settling into how do I make sure that I remain healthy and vibrant and that I can continue to contribute in my career to age 70 instead of age 65 because that's my financial reality. Yep. Like those are the things that you just have to be honest about if you are willing to adjust your priorities, adjust the goal itself. This is achievable.
Yep, it is. Work with your certified financial planner on that. All right, that's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Josh Gregory, Kevin Korhorn, all of us at KFG, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Korhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.